Hey, and welcome to MetaNetTV. We're just continuing our series of interviews with some of the MetaNetTV main participants, and this is one of the very main ones today. We've got Dale Dickins, who is the lead producer of the MetaNetTV project. How's it going, Dale?
Very good, thank you, John. Great to chat with you.
Again.
There's so many messages,
Yeah.
going back and forth through Slack and Twitter.
I think this is the first time we've actually spoken more or less face-to-face for years now.
Yeah, it would have been 2014 when we met, 2014, 2015.
It was, yeah. So you've been, I hesitate to use the word leader, but I can't really think of a better word. You've been leading the Bitcoin community down there in Melbourne, Australia, since probably before I got into Bitcoin. And you've organized a lot of the meetups there, back the BTC meetups when it was that, and now then Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV. Where is it all at now?
I've learned so much in all of that time. So I've become a lot more selective in where I spend my energy and with whom. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not doing meetups anymore because I found that most people wanted to chat about other cryptos and the price, and I just have zero interest in that. Yeah. So when Joel started talking about MetaNet events and organizing a way for people to actually use Bitcoin, that sparked my interest, and that would be the time that I get back into it. But it's actually quite draining organizing the meetups. Yeah,
I can imagine, which is one of the reasons I don't do it. Now, I remember coming down to Melbourne back in 2014, and I'm actually from Melbourne, but I left there in 1999. So that was kind of before the internet really took off, and it was definitely before Bitcoin. So when you were down there showing me around all the the Bitcoin accepting shops around St. Kilda and in the city, it was a really weird experience for me because I wasn't used to talking about Bitcoin down in Melbourne. How would you describe the scene down there now? Has it improved much or changed much since then?
Oh yeah. I mean, at that time, I facilitated a workshop for a little business called Laneway Learning. Mm-hmm. And there was about, I think, 25 people, and mostly technically minded. So I really got challenged because I'm not technical, but I knew how it works because I was probably the only person that was actually using it. I mean, during the workshop, people paid, I think it was $15, and they got $5 back in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So I was getting all these really technical questions, and then there was a point, okay, now we're going to transfer the funds over. Everybody get your wallets out. And these very serious business people became little kids when actually it's like, it works because they'd never used it. So when we transferred the money over, everything just kind of settled into more people-oriented. And there was one particular, so why I'm mentioning this is that one of the people from that workshop ended up using it in her shop on King Street. Mm-hmm. So that was probably one of the shops that we visited. And she's been very, very active since.
Right.
There's a lot of ATMs now.
Yeah.
Even I think it was Swanson Street. I walked past a couple of weeks ago a money exchanging business, and they've got an ATM in there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to compare, at the time when I did the first workshop, not many people knew what Bitcoin was, and now it's pretty common.
That's very cool to hear. I think I remember you saying you had an ATM in your apartment, didn't you?
That's right. That's right. I was driving my neighbors mad. Like, come and play with it. Come and put some money in. They thought I was crazy. It was $100 at the time.
Right.
I had a housemate that reluctantly put $20 in, mm-hmm. and he left very, very happy. by the time he left sharing with me.
That's a pretty unique experience in Bitcoin, I'd say. Now, speaking
Me too.
speaking of unique experiences, you've been involved with a lot of projects over the years, and I think a lot of people don't really realize what you've done for the community and for a lot of the different projects back in Australia and also in the Philippines. The main one that springs to mind, and probably the most famous one, is that you were the first person to interview Craig Wright on video, which was also in 2014. And
I thought you were around the same time, though. You had an interview with him, yeah?
Yeah, that's true. Mine doesn't count because he wouldn't let me publish his name at the time. So there's absolutely no evidence that it ever happened. But you got the video, and it's actually quite an enlightening video or enlightening interview because you can see little tells there that would hint at what's to come later on.
I know. There was just one question missing. Are you Satoshi Nakamoto? That's all I needed to ask.
Yeah.
But as Satoshi at a Melbourne conference, there were, I think, 50 people at the conference. It was a disaster. The same people, the same faces. It was shared with the 3D printing conference, which was lucky because they had a lot of people. We didn't. And I organized I pre-organized people to meet me at specific times, and Craig Wright was one of them. He was kind of the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And when he sat down in front of me, I just went through because I'd interviewed so many people. It's just like, yeah, so when did you get into Bitcoin? He said there wasn't a price. I'm like, who are you? And then in another point, he said, you're thinking too small. And I'm like, I'm making Melbourne the Bitcoin capital of the world. Excuse me. So I had a bit of an attitude with him, but he was fascinating. The way he described Bitcoin and the way he held himself as well, it's ownership. He really knew what he was talking about, obviously. And I was just totally fascinated with the world that he was describing. That's the world I want to live in, what he was talking about. So it was a fun interview on reflection.
Had you interacted with him at all before, or he just randomly appeared that day?
Well, I got a list of all of the speakers at the conference.
Right. And he was a speaker there.
Yes. Yeah. And he recently spoke about how he was at conferences, that he would just go in and leave. He's not very people friendly.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
He just walked in, did his talk with me, did the interview, and then he left. But of course, caused a kerfuffle. People were like, who is that Craig Wright dude? He just thinks he knows so much.
Yeah.
He wasn't popular at all.
Well, the funny thing is after you made that documentary, he did kind of vanish from the scene for a couple of years, and then when he popped up again, everyone's like, oh, that's that guy. I remember him.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because the conference was in July 2014, and I didn't release the information until after the so-called outing.
Right. Oh, okay. So nobody had seen that video before the big outing by Wired magazine.
Yeah, I released it. I think it was like 2 or 3 days later. He was sending me messages along the way. It was quite funny, actually, because 2 weeks after I interviewed him, I was just so blown away with what he said. I called him and asked him if I could work for him. I'm like, I don't know who you are or what you do, but I want to work with you.
All right. What was the response?
He said he'd find out from his team. So I took it upon myself to organise him meeting people. When Jon Southurst came over to Australia, I met with Jon and organised that he meet Craig then.
Yeah.
And a few other people.
See, that's what I mean. So you're always kind of there, like as a fixer behind the scenes there.
Well, I want this to work. I really love what Bitcoin offers. So I've got my ears out for who's actually switched on and is moving things and what's happening. And I'm there like that.
All right then. Well, let's go on to more recent things. You were involved with some of the BCH stress tests, and then this year the BSV stress test as well. I see. I don't actually know what you did in any of these projects. I know you were there doing stuff, but you're never out there telling people what you've done. You're out there promoting it as if it's for other people. But I know that you've been involved as well. So what was the BSV spaceship?
The spaceships. Well, we're going to go back a little bit because this is all Yobits and Mr. G. I met with them in Manila. It seems like 5 years ago, but it was only 2 years ago.
Yeah.
On my way to the conference. And so that was actually through the Jeepney project. That's another project. We got...
See what I mean?
Mr. G. Yeah. Mr. G. I gave him that nickname. He contacted me at one point and said that he wanted to get a Lamborghini with Bitcoin Cash on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool. And then we were laughing about creating an initial Lamborghini offering.
Right.
So people could buy into it and like drive it when they're there or get driven or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So I thought it was really fun. And then he came back and he said he had a vehicle. And he said, it's a Jeepney. I'm like, what's a Jeepney? So I'm on the internet looking to find out what a Jeepney is.
It's it's kind of a half Jeep, half bus that they only have in the Philippines, right?
Cross with a taxi as well, because you can just stick your thumb out and get into it at any point.
Uh-huh.
They're crazy things, and they're everywhere.
I'm going to try that one day.
Yeah. Oh, they're fun. Like the money just gets passed along. You sit on the benches and the money gets passed along from person to the driver, and then the change comes back as well. And like I said, they got their specific routes and you can just get off and on whenever you want. So we got this Jeepney thing happening. Mr. G, we were talking about designing it, just getting one painted. And I got Mr. Scatman in.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, why don't we buy one? So we're like, what's it cost? We worked out the cost, and then it was Mr. Scatman's idea to get chair holders, and we organised. So I just got out within 24 hours, 48 hours. I got promises from people to put in to be chair holders. It just happened really, really quickly.
Chair holders. That's cute.
Yeah, it's quite funny. So then we got the vehicle up and running, and so this connection with Mr. G and Yobits, and also the people that act. That's what I'm mostly interested in, the people that put their money where their mouth is.
Proof of work.
Through these projects, So through these projects, I've got to work with some really, really awesome people. And, it's at a level where I can just say, I know you're busy, but this is what needs happening. Do you have time to do it? Yes or no? No offense if you don't, let me know, and I'll move on to the next person. So it's kind of this really tight network.
Yeah.
So that's where I've got my strength is through building teams.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my in one of my professions. I worked in building teams because it's really interesting to see how people can work as individuals, but what's really, really important is how the dynamics come together.
Yeah.
Who can work with whom? That's critical.
Absolutely.
So I think that's always been my intention. It's just to find the people that do what they say they're going to do, or can be straight with me. Just say, go away, Dale, just stop it. Or not now. I love what you're doing. Call me or tweet me again in a month or whatever. Some people that I approached with the Jeepney project regret that they didn't jump in because I didn't have anything really. Mm-hmm. Just had a diagram of this Jeepney thing. People didn't even know what a Jeepney was. Some people bought in without even knowing what a Jeepney was. They kind of found out afterwards.
Well, that's
So,
charisma.
so they're the kind of people that I've connected with, and that's made it really, really easy whenever great projects come up, just to get the word out. So from that, there was also Cointext. I was pivotal in Cointext and getting that happening. I connected with Alex from the Khan Academy. That was incredible. We were sending 1 cent around the world via SMS. Like within 2 weeks, we had 51 countries covered.
Yeah,
So Alex,
you have a real knack for finding the more novel projects in Bitcoin too, because I mean, you could quite easily just promote facilitate, promote, whatever you want to call it, the same type of project all the time, but you always seem to find something that's, out there that nobody's ever heard of before, and it's pretty interesting to look at.
Well, I'm listening for the ones that will work, and in the countries, and I do have a solid background in this. This is part of my training, so it's not like it's a fluke or intuition. Although intuition may have something. I've got a whole thing about intuition, but I'm skilled at this.
Right.
It's what I do.
What do you actually do for a living?
Sorry.
What do you actually do for a living?
I work to make Bitcoin a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That's what I do. I spend my energy on that.
Excellent. So, you need a title.
Let me come. Sorry?
You need a title.
No title.
Right.
So, but coming back to Yobits and Mr. G, so we had this really crazy dynamic, just ideas, crazy ideas. There was a point in the Manila, I sat with my laptop while those two just kept babbling, and I'm like, slow down, let me jot that down. So getting a file of the really crazy ways that Bitcoin can work. And then in, I think it was June last year, Jobits came in and said, how about we make a stress test, get 5 million transactions within 24 hours.
Right.
Me and Mr. J were like, sounds good.
And this is for Bitcoin Cash at the time, right?
It was Bitcoin Cash at the time, yeah. So Yobits built a website like within 48 hours. I got onto my network, who's interested, got the word out, got a team in really fast. We had the website out, put out the word to get scripts in, because we knew that we needed something automated.
Yeah.
And the team developed, it got stronger. I started tweeting. There was so much controversy.
Yeah.
Vin Armani, are you crazy? And like, it's just teenagers doing donuts on the highway. Okay. And Cointext crashed. We crashed all these systems. It was awesome. And it was fantastic because it was where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
People that really appreciated it. The Unwriter, I was in communication also with some of the people that I can see serious about growing Bitcoin. I got the word out to them. This is what we're going to do. It's going to happen. It's not a question. We're not asking you. We're just letting you know this is going to happen. Get ready. And so we had, with the Bitcoin Cash, the 1st of August, it was a first birthday.
Yeah.
So I had a Bitcoin Cash meetup, and I had screens up on the wall showing Elon Ephraim's matrix, the transaction highway, the subway, and then behind the scenes, I was in communication with the stress test team, and we just started bombarding the chain with transactions. And all of a sudden, people are kind of at the meetup looking, and there was not much happening. And then all of a sudden, even the person behind the bar was really excited. She's like, "This is how it works." Yeah, it was great.
See, I think a stress test is being like the ultimate geek out of the financial or cryptocurrency world. So a lot of people don't really know the kind of organization that goes on behind the scenes there.
There is 168 pages of conversation to get it happening.
Yeah.
It was really intense, and of course with the different time zones, Australia, I'm like awake until 5 a.m. in the morning, passing messages through and finding out what's going on, and also sending out transactions to the transaction highway. And Mr. Scatman was genius.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, the people that were drawn to it really wanted to see big blocks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Spend BCH and Gabriel Cardona,
Mm-hmm.
they created Scale.cash. So that was one of the first scripts that we got in. And then Mr. Scatman decided to bring Mimo in.
Yeah.
So he created a blaster which had Mimo messages. It kind of just grew out of all, crazy. It was really great. Transaction Highway put a little shed in with Mimo transactions so we could see messages going through. One side of the highway had the BTX queue, just like huge queue of people waiting to get onto their bus. And we're like, look at the communists over there. And this is the way Bitcoin's supposed to flow. So Mr. Scatman got people really engaging and through blasting transactions, and that ended up being much faster than Scale.cash. That was the go-to way to send transactions. And then we had, somebody that wanted to finance the whole lot as well because he was really impressed.
Yeah, because all of these transactions actually cost money.
Yeah, that's right. It was not for free. We financed it as well. Although it looks like a massive community project, there were a few key people, Yobits and Mr. G, it was their brainstorm. It was our brainstorm. And they put in a lot of money to make it work too.
Yeah, I never realized how much.
It's our self-interest.
Yeah, yeah.
That self-interest pays off.
Yeah,
and when we got to see how many transactions were going through, it was incredible. And I also, at this particular meetup, I had some BTC people there.
Yeah.
And they were impressed.
Really?
So, yeah, what I was saying before about meetups just tended to be about crypto and prices and things. This was one of the most dynamic meetups that I facilitated because we could actually see how it worked, how many transactions per second were coming through, how fast they went, seeing the blocks move. So that was great.
I wonder if they took any of that knowledge back.
That was a stress test.
Excellent. And there's another one coming up. You're going to do that on the same date every year, right?
Yeah, September the 1st every year.
And it's the same people?
In May even... Sorry.
The same people?
Sorry?
Mostly the same people?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it's also grown out of proportion now. I mean, Shem is doing one on the 27th or the 28th of July.
Yeah, yeah.
So that we just look at as a stepping stone, like the same as we did last year, having a pre-test to see what crashed.
Right.
What worked and what didn't, how we've needed to tweak the software.
That's actually a good idea because you get to see how well all of the solutions worked. Like if you just had one at the same time, like you could come back the next year and find that nothing was really fixed properly.
Yeah, and this is the whole aim of it. It's really to have the services prepare for an onslaught of transactions. Right. There's so much focus on in-chain and what's happening with the upgrades, but it's kind of like with Team. It's the dynamics. It's the systems that are using Bitcoin that have to be updated and upgraded as well. So we see the stress test as a way for everybody to fine-tune their software and their teams and their communication.
Yeah, it's totally necessary. I mean, as I was saying before, even with video recording, I can set everything up perfectly and it works perfectly for weeks, and then when something unusual happens, it all just falls in a heap. So I guess you don't want that happening with your money.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And also having the statistics on the board. So, I often think of the likes of Amazon and Alibaba Kogan in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of transactions going through.
Right.
Each, like daily, weekly, annually.
Mm-hmm. These are fiat transactions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But transactions, and they're still having to pay for each of those transactions. I think there will be a point that they're interested in increasing their profit on those transactions, but it would have to be with a system that is capable of working with what they already have, because it's a big deal shifting into a new type of system. There's a lot of money involved. So there has to be some indication that these new systems can cope with the volume and scale.
For sure.
So we got statistics on the board, and that was our key interest, was seeing how many transactions we could get through per second.
Very cool. And I did want to get back to the spaceships because
on the spaceships.
I mean, that was kind of a very visual thing. A lot of people who were on Twitter saw these sort of spirograph-like graphics that were suddenly appearing in their feed, and a lot of people didn't really understand what it was all about. So who was involved with that one?
Nobody understood it, not even me. Like,
I thought they were pretty, but I didn't really know how it worked.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
So another Yobits and Mr. G project. Yobits, me and Mr. G. The Yobits idea is to create a system that schedules transactions out. So Mr. G is a genius as far as coding is concerned. He's a really, really smart. He created the Pixel wallet as well. So he jumped on board with the steganography.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. So he built the Pixel wallet.
Very cool idea.
And that's it's excellent. So Yobits suggested or wanted to have a system that pays out in time so we can schedule out and automate payments. So Mr. G built the Forever Fund.
Right.
And to test it, because we like stress testing stuff, I started, Yobit started sending out a pattern of transactions. So you can have a main wallet that sends out to 10 wallets, that has them send out to 20 wallets. You can do up to 2,000 wallets at a time.
Wow.
And these payments can be automated per minute through to like however many years you want, but also percentages. So I can send 1% of a wallet to 10 wallets and then send 1% of that to 10 wallets.
Yeah.
So when I saw some of the images that came through on Bitgraph that the Unwriter built, actually we crashed that in the first stress test. It was really cool. The Unwriter loved that we crashed his stuff. He loved it. He loved it. It was really, really cool. It was like awesome. I got to learn and see what I needed to do. So thanks. It was really cool. So with the Forever Fund, I started sending out transactions and doing diagrams of how I could, working out how if I sent 10% to that to 10 wallets and then 5% and then 2% and then looped it back to the first one, how long it would run for. And I had one that ran for a month until it reached zero, because it can divide 0.0002 BSV into 1% and it just continues. So then, but the images on Bitgraph, they look like spacecraft.
Yeah, they do.
So then I thought, well, spacecraft need captains, right? So I got out in my little network and asked who wanted to be a captain.
And you got lots of volunteers.
Yeah, that's right. And that was, again, quite funny. It was kind of like the GP project.
Yeah.
People were like, the captain of a spacecraft, what do I need to do? You need to say yes within 5 minutes or the opportunity is gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these things are necessary. I mean, and it's the sort of thing that most of the developers in Bitcoin just never even think of. Most of them would never think, I should design this, like transaction firing system, and I should put a front end on it. No, nobody does that. And
Right.
and then nobody paints a jeepney and drives it around Manila. These are all like very interesting and like very necessary things.
And it gets it in the public face. And it's my self-interest.
Yeah.
This is the core of what I do. I want to be able to show my friends how Bitcoin works. Because they're not technically minded. Some of them work for in the supply chain industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one friend, I was so proud that we'd done, was it 2 million transactions into it? I said, so we did 2 million transactions, and she said, what, in an hour? I said, no, in 24 hours. And she's like, oh, okay. Just the real world wants measures.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I can communicate with my friends that what I'm spending so much energy on actually does work.
Yeah, and over in the real world too, they also kind of glaze over when you start using words like Yobits or Mr. G or bitcoinsvtrain, whatever. I mean, it's all just too weird for people in the normal world, I think. Do we have to go out there and put on suits and pretend to be professionals? Like, can we just keep Bitcoin weird like they always wanted?
Well, what I'm finding is that it's the enthusiasm that is spread, because there's so many batshit boring projects happening in the world. Not much innovation whatsoever. And then the monotone delivery.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm building spacecraft. Who wants to be a captain?
It catches people's attention, and that's what you need.
That's right.
Like, this Bitcoin stuff, it's been around for so long now, and a lot of it it really sounds the same. Like when you've covered the news and you've covered all the information, like I can't tell the years apart anymore, because it seems like the same cycle is just repeating over and over. I need novelty. I need a little bit of excitement and color. So that's
excellent. That's where we talk about MetaNetTV, right?
Exactly. Yes. So on to MetaNetTV. I mean, I think we know why you joined, because it seems like a cool and interesting project, but can you tell us a little bit more about what you want it to be?
Well, again, my self-interest, I want to be able to send information out to industry-specific businesses and say, this is what Bitcoin will do for you. Again, I put the word out and have connected with some really great people. Some of the content that's coming through, it's just excellent.
So
the brief, if you like, is for people to explore how the MetaNet is different to what we have. So to pique an interest and to spark the imagination, so that somebody in the supply chain industry, for example, can see how this will make a difference in their work environment.
Okay, in the supply chain industry.
Sorry?
In the supply chain industry. I've heard a few people say that now.
Well, I think that's where it really hits home. If you can imagine, I've got a friend that does interior design, and in explaining it to her, I said, just imagine you've got the one chair that you've sent out to numerous different businesses, and rather than you having your database and them having a database and the chair supplier having a database, it would just be on one particular ledger. You can see who you sent it to, at what time, what their feedback was, how much profit you made. You could permission out the information that they get so they can access that same ledger. And you can make any necessary changes to future orders. They didn't like that, change the color. This is what went wrong. So there's a reference point to return to and improve on. But right now, I don't get I don't see a way that people can improve and provide better quality. It's actually really difficult. The internet, as we have it, is so it's a waste of time. Ultimately, no, I love my time is my greatest resource. Where I spend it is important to me, and I want to work within a system that has me value that values my time. So
do you think
there's so
Bitcoin
much
SV
doubling up
values
with
your
the
time?
internet. Sorry?
Do you think the Bitcoin SV community values your time?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think the people that have come together now, it's like we've had so many splits and factions that have enriched what Bitcoin really is. And the people that are here now have specific values and are on purpose and have intention. And we're going to grow really quickly, I think.
Excellent, yeah. And we do have kind of an all-star cast going at MetaNetTV, which you assembled in about 24 hours. Joel came and said, let's have a team, and then within 24 hours you had this team of people all saying, yes, please, can I come and work for you? So that was kind of impressive too. Like, and not many people can command that kind of attention, I think, in the Bitcoin world. So, you know.
Well, it hasn't happened overnight.
No, for sure. I mean, it looks like it's happened overnight.
This has taken a while to filter through and just find the people, again, the people that work well together. But you also remember what we did this time. So having learned from previous projects, we put smart contracts in place.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're not smart contracts, but from my end, they're a smart contract in creating an agreement with the writers, which was negotiable.
Yeah.
And even though we had to do it on Google Docs, we've now got legally chained that we can do these contracts on. And I think these new tools are going to make it easier to build really awesome teams.
And as a head producer for the project, what are you doing there? Are you just organizing people? Are you going to be doing any more video content? Hint, hint.
Well, funny that you should say that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Bali.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no MetaNetTV representative, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's a Bali boot camp happening.
There is.
With some awesome developers. So, yeah, I'm thinking about it. But, you know, like what you said right at the beginning, this whole technology world and getting things set up, and there's so many variables that can go wrong, and they generally do with me.
Mm-hmm. Really?
So, yeah. But I'm in conversation with somebody that's willing to train me to do some editing.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
I definitely want to see where that one goes. All right, that's probably a good point to call it a day there. You said you already roller skated 18.2 kilometers today.
Yeah.
And you mean actual
it's a beautiful day today.
You mean actual roller skating too? I mean, not blades. You have skates.
No, not blades. Four wheels. Old school style.
Yeah.
And I painted my skates as well. They were white. I don't know if you can see, but my fingers are a bit purple. Yeah, look.
Oh yeah, I can see that. That's right, because it's middle of winter where you are.
Yeah, that's right. So I thought that I would get these learning to skate things sorted before summer. So I found myself a roller skating buddy. We met up in the supermarket, and she's pretty keen. She was like raving about getting her roller skates out, and I had just so happened to have bought my roller skates, and I had 2 months worth of coaching. So I had a coach train me in the car park, learn how to fall over and all of that stuff. And now I'm out on the beachfront. Yeah, 18.2 kilometers today. Pretty cool, huh?
I think the last time I wore roller skates, they were playing Staying Alive on the PA system. And it was new.
There's roller disco things happening. I do want to get into a rink so that I can do some more tricks, learn backwards and stuff, and I need to hold on to the rail. So yeah, there's roller discos. They're still a big thing.
I don't know about doing retro things that I used to do when they were brand new. That just makes me feel old.
Well,
it could be fun.
When you come to Melbourne, you're bringing your skates, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll think about that. Alrighty
John,
then.
It's great fun. And I got a heads up now. So.
I remember it being great fun. I think I was only about 8 years old at the time, so I think falling over is probably not as much fun as it used to be.
Oh, there's an art to it. I've mastered it.
There certainly is.
You know, now there's the knee pads and the elbow pads and the what's the other one? And wrist pads.
Helmets.
So I tell you, I'm not doing the helmet.
Nah.
But I tell you what, they're so good. I've looked at the grooves in my knee pads. I'm very happy that I was wearing them. Yeah. For
sure. All right, then. Well, I'm actually going to come and see you in Melbourne next month. So we'll do a live one then, awesome. And hopefully you've got your skates on. We can see a bit of that as well.
Yes, very cool. All right, John, thank you. And I just want to say it's an absolute pleasure working with you.
Likewise.
Yeah. You're just so...
Weird.
If I say easy, don't take it personally.
I never take that personally. It's a compliment.
I'm into stress-free systems.
Good.
You know, just where people can be straight up. And
says the person who organizes stress tests.
Yeah, I've got to find out where it's going to go wrong. So it's an absolute pleasure working with you. I think we're going to really grow a media station that's much needed to provoke thinking for what could be. And the MetaNet is something, obviously, it's not in existence right now. So all there is to do is to provoke the imagination and start people asking questions and find out how it will work for them. So I hear that with you, this is going to be a breeze.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's probably an excellent note to finish it on. So I guess all we can do is say, see you all on MetaNetTV.
On MetaNetTV, yeah. Watch out for it.
All right. See you later.
All right. Great. Thanks. See you.